We continue in our study of Messianic prophecy, objections to the New Testament or Messianic Jewish interpretation of various prophecies, one of which is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. In the Hebrew, it's verse 5. That we're told this text does not speak of a divine king or a divine Messiah. Now, the simple answer to this is that the most natural, grammatical, and logical understanding of the text is that it speaks of a divine king / Messiah. Now, in our first class, our first 16-hour, our first 8-hour class, we talked about the deity of Messiah and God's triunity as complex unity. So we're not repeating all of that here in this class, but we do want to look at this text carefully. The context is the encroaching power of Assyria and God breaking their power. And the good news is, verse 6, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given." This is something that is happening. "And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called," in Hebrew it's Pele Yoetz El Gibor Avi Ad Sar Shalom. Do the words go together? Pele Yoetz El Gibor Avi Ad Sar Shalom. If so, what do they mean? Are they a sentence? Then it continues, "Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end on the throne of David, nor his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts would do this." Well, Hezekiah was used by the Lord and had a great and powerful reign, but none that lives up to this fully. And that's why some ancient Jewish traditions recognize that, in fact, this is a messianic prophecy, spoken in the days of Hezekiah, but it does not reach its fulfillment until the coming of the Messiah. Well, the Septuagint, the Greek translation, reads it like this: "For a child is born to us and a son is given to us, whose government is upon his shoulder, and his name is called the Messenger of Great Counsel. For I will bring peace upon the princes and health to him." Notice it's struggling with the Hebrew a little bit, or freely interpreting it. The Targum, the Aramaic translation / paraphrase, explicitly identifies this as messianic, but renders it like this: "And his name will be called from before the one who is wonderful in counsel, the mighty God who exists forever, Messiah, because there will be abundant peace upon us in his days." The problem with the translation is, number one, it's very strained grammatically. Reading it, you would not think that that's the first meaning. And number two, since it's a prophecy about this child that's being born, it seems odd to be heaping all the names on God rather than on the son, on this king that's being born in the line of David. It would be like saying, "And God, the great, glorious, holy, wonderful, eternal, unchangeable Redeemer and King and Lord, calls his name Joe." You just don't have a parallel or precedent for that in the Hebrew Bible. So it's ungrammatical, it's unprecedented, and it is illogical. Famous Italian rabbi known as Shadal, Shmuel David Luzzatto, said, "You do not expect to find the attributes of God here, but such as would be characteristic of the child." Well, the Jewish publication translation of 1917 just avoids the issue, basically, and transliterates the Hebrew, Pele Yoetz El Gibor Aviad Sar Shalom. It doesn't translate, it just puts the Hebrew. However, Stone translation follows the Targum. "For a child," explained in the footnote to be Hezekiah, "has been born to us, a son has been given to us, and the dominion will rest on his shoulder. The wondrous advisor, mighty God, eternal Father, shall call his name Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace." Again, very forced rendering, very forced. Well, much better is the New Jewish version, the New Jewish Publication Society version, which translates the whole thing as a sentence. "The mighty God is planning grace. Pele," grace, something wondrous. "Yoetz" is planning. El Gibor. The eternal Father, Aviad Sar Shalom, is planning a Prince of Peace. Now it could be possible. In other words, it's brilliant grammatically to look at that. It could be possible, and it would be similar to the name Maher Shalach Hashbaz that we saw in the last lecture. in Isaiah 8, hasten, pray, speed, plunder. But here's the problem with this. This is not absolutely damning to it, but number one, this has never been found in Jewish tradition. No Jewish commentary, no Jewish translator, no Talmudic, Rabbinic traditions. None of them ever read it like this, never came up with that. Now, it doesn't mean it couldn't be right. It's just interesting to see that all prior Jewish traditions read it differently. A second thing is, it eliminates the possibility of these four pairs of names being throne names, similar to the custom, say, in ancient Egypt, in which the new pharaoh would receive four royal names at his coronation. Many scholars believe it's the case here. And the length of the name is even longer than Maher-Shalal Hashbaz. Picture that this is the name. It's a sentence. Pele Yoetz El Gibor Aviad Sar Shalom as a sentence. Again, that is unprecedented in Hebrew Scripture. What's also interesting is that there is Talmudic tradition and some of the top rabbinic commentaries in the Middle Ages, and they all say the names are descriptions of the child. The names are names of the child. And they explain how each one refers to Hezekiah. There's only one problem. How are you going to apply El Gibor, mighty God, to Hezekiah? And the rabbinic tradition is very weak here. Well, he was a mighty warrior, powerful, like that. The problem is El Gibor is used in Isaiah chapter 10 to speak of Yahweh, mighty God. Well, now you can turn it around and say to me, well, then how could you apply it to an earthly king? How could you apply to Hezekiah, this mighty God? The king was not God. I would say the truth is partway in between. The fact that the Talmud and some top rabbinic commentaries like Abraham ibn Ezra, who was right after Rashi and tremendously important, the fact that they can interpret the names with reference to the child, and the fact that they could say somehow that El Gibor could be applied to the child, I say it breaks the bounds of human language to apply that to an earthly Messianic king, but perhaps it could be understood with reference to him. But when you realize who the Messianic king is, that he's the divine son, then it fits perfectly. The most logical thing is to see this as names of the child. You say, but wait a second. When you have a name, it didn't refer to the child. It was always speaking about God, like Eliyahu. Yahweh is my God. That's not about Elijah, that he's Yahweh or something like that. It's that Yahweh is his God. Well, sometimes the names referred directly to characteristics about the child, like Solomon, Shlomo, man of peace, and his birth name, Yedid Jah, beloved of Yahweh. Or Yaakov, because he grabs the Akev of his brother Esau, play on words there. It could go back to a Semitic root meaning protect and perhaps meaning Yahweh or God protects. And then it's used as a play on words because Akav, Yaakov, can mean to deceive. Well, he's always been a deceiver. In other words, the name could refer directly to the child, not just be a statement about God. So how do we understand this? Pelioetz, a wonderful counselor. Aviad, father forever. Meaning what? Father of the people forever. Or possessor of eternity. El Gibor, mighty God, divine one. Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace. They are prophetic words telling us that this one to come, this Messiah, will be glorious. And then when Yeshua comes, like, wow, he really is the divine word made flesh.